Well, women always do better in court when it comes to criminal sentencings. Our society, they beheaded less women back in the day too. If you want to get trouble as a woman back in the day, you had to be a witch. And then they'd drown you because if you drowned, you weren't a witch. But if you didn't drown, you were a witch, and then they beheaded you.
Well, anyway, that's So I was reading something.
Yeah, no, but it's interesting because women do better. That's why we have so many fewer. But when you go to a woman's penitentiary, by the way, and the guards will tell you this, in order to get into state prison, you have to be it's tough. There's a lot of, I don't want to say good guys in state prison, but there's a lot of guys in state prison that aren't terrible human beings at the end of the day. For women to get into prison, long prison terms, they usually have to be a lot worse on average. And so they tell me that the female prisons are actually much rougher. Jay, I'm going to take Lucky in Shippensburg, so I will talk to you next week. Lucky.
Yes.
What's going on?
I'm good, sir. Hey, I have a situation where I'm a car dealer in Pennsylvania, and I do a lot of sales on eBay. I've been doing this for many, many years.
Okay.
eBay has made it so that you can't give negative feedback to your customer, but they can give negative feedback to you. The items I sell are between $3,000 and $13,000 or $14,000.
Okay.
And I generally sell equipment, vehicles, motorcycles, things of that nature. And because I sell that type of item, shipping on that type of item for people is usually between $400 and $1,200.
Okay.
If somebody buys something in California, it's very expensive. So my situation is that I can sell something. I've really manicured my statements and my disclosure within the listings to cover all the bases of all the problems that I've had for the past 10 years. So my question is if a customer gives you negative feedback, which I have a 100% score now, but if someone gives you negative feedback, even though you've completely satisfied them in every way,
right?
Is there a legal ability for me to pursue that person for damages because they've wrongfully or maliciously, tried to make me look bad out to the world?
The answer is, I think you're going to have to read your eBay user agreement, okay?
Right.
As a seller, and I'll double-check this because I know a guy that sells lots of things on eBay, and I'll ask him about this, but I'm pretty sure, because he had talked to me about this once before, this exactly how, he can't leave feedback, but they can leave feedback for you. And so the answer is, your user agreement, I believe, has provisions in it that basically say you're not going to attack anybody over the feedback. By selling on the system, you agree that whatever gets on there gets on there. Now, there is some ability through the eBay system to dispute a bad feedback, and have it removed if under certain circumstances.
Right. My understanding is you can do that one time per calendar year.
Yeah, and so their theory is that's how they're going to do it. Now, I understand the theory of the investment. Now, the good news is, obviously, if you've been doing it a while, your feedback rating goes up, and one bad person does not usually, for eBay users, make a deal. Most sophisticated buyers on eBay realize this. The problem with you is you get these other buyers who say, "Oh, this guy's got a bad feedback," and they don't see the other, 150 good feedback or 2,000 good feedback.
Right. Yeah.
But I think you limit yourself because I think eBay actually has a system in place, and they say, because here's the answer. This is the problem. You don't have to use eBay, do you?
Well, I don't have to, but I do know that is the most bang for my dollar.
Well, I understand that. But you're getting a compromise there. In other words, right. eBay says, I got rules on how we're going to do this, and you're going to agree not to. Because I believe if you sue somebody over feedback and you don't go through them, that is a violation of their terms of service, and they could shut off your ability to sell.
Right.
And so that's what you have a contractual limitation on your abilities, which you can still, listen, a false statement's a false statement, and you can sue somebody for it, but you might cut your nose, off to spite your face, right, because you'll end up without an eBay account. So I think that's the answer, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll double check that, and if you check back with me next week, because I'll be here at 8 a.m. next Saturday, yes, I'll get you an answer.
Okay.
All right,
very
boss.
much.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir.
By the way, I have I told you guys you can send me questions on Facebook, and of course people do listen. Believe it or not, there are people listening out there because, as Lucinda says, do I have anybody else on the phone? No, we're out of phone callers. Lucinda wants to know about. I heard something about parental support, which I believe is referring to dividing monetary children to pay for parental care, nursing home, etc. Are there laws? Oh, you're darn tootin'. There's laws. They're called filial support laws, and Pennsylvania has one in the Domestic Relations Code. Do you remember when the legislature passed the pay raise? Well, in the middle of the night while they were doing that, they moved. We've had the filial support law in the books, but they moved it from the welfare code to the Domestic Relations Code. And yes, nursing homes and parents can sue children for support, and you have a duty to support your parents under the law. And I plan to do a whole show on that at some point. But here's the answer. You really, when you start taking into effect the filial support laws, really have to do a whole lot more work. A whole lot more work with your estate planning if you want to beat the government or the nursing home out of the money. And I'll give you an example, just quick here. If you go and you say, hey, there's look-back periods, and I'm going to beat the look-back periods by making sure I transfer this $150,000 property or this $200,000 cash account to my son well before I go to the nursing home, and congratulations, you did it correctly. The nursing home at some point, or the government or the appropriate person can come back and say, hey, you know what, we're still owed a little money on this nursing home bill to the tune of $75,000, and we want to get it from you, kiddio. And the kid says, I don't want to pay. So they sue under the filial support law. And there's a case here in Pennsylvania where a $95,000 judgment was executed against the child. And it's even worse because that kid said, well, what about my brothers and sisters? And the court said, they chose to sue you. You could have dragged your brothers and sisters into the lawsuit yourself by interpleading them, but you chose not to. Therefore, you owe the bill. Now, why did the nursing home only sue the one son? Because he's the only one that lived in Pennsylvania. So why bother going to find the people out of state? But I really like the court's answer, which is, hey, I know it stinks that the nursing home's suing you for your dad's bill, but just for a lot of family love, you should have dragged your brother and sister into the lawsuit because that would have kept the family really tight forever and ever and forevermore. I love courts sometimes. They're so practical. With that in mind, though, yes, there are filial support laws here in Pennsylvania, and they're not going away, by the way, because the Department of Public Welfare is really keen on this law because it helps them recoup a lot of money and prevent Medicare issues. And they don't use it directly. The nursing homes use it more so. But the DPW would be on the hook for a lot of money if the nursing homes couldn't make these recoveries. It's also being used a little more creatively to force people to help their parents get their act together for nursing home things. But a lot of lawyers have been either unaware of this or have sort of said, and I would agree with this statement up until, recently, that you rarely see this used or nobody really pushes these things. Listen, man, the cash crunch is on, and we're going to see them used more and more and more. Just want to remind you, if you need to liquidate an estate or business, you recommend you call RJ Gold Auctions. He can buy outright or sell your items at auction. RJ can be reached at 645-0061. He's got his awesome auction Sunday, December 22nd at 1 p.m. at the Park Inn Radisson on Carlisle Pike in Mechanicsburg. PA licensed auctioneer AU005798. I recommend you go down there. Today after the show, I think I'm going to swing by Carlisle Beer and Cigar. That's a similar name to that other company. And very similar setup. They've got a great little humidor over there, some cigars, beer, of course. And I could get some beer and ribs for breakfast. Yeah, that's right.
Truly the breakfast of champions.
Yes. So, it's right over by the Walmart here in Carlisle. And if you stop in, tell them Carl sent you. Not that you won't get a discount or anything, and you'll probably get a blank stare, but it's worth it. More importantly, that way they know that people actually listen to this show, because I keep telling them they do, and we just need to prove it.
Well, you had calls from York, Shippensburg, and Harrisburg today.
I see that. I see that. And I think people are just not used to us being live at this hour yet, and I feel bad for you because when they figure it out, the phones are going to really start to drive you nutty. But that's okay.
Comes with the territory.
That's right. In the meantime, if you want to look me up, you go to RomingerLaw.com, ROMINGER, law.com, or you can look me up on Facebook. It's Carl with a K, Rominger, ROMINGER, and I will be happy to answer your questions throughout the week. And if you can hear this signal, we can help you because we will come to your county and take care of your legal problems, practice in all areas of the law, personal injury, family law, whatever. How much time I got left?
You have 30 seconds. We're also available on WIOO.com.
Am I available on WIOO.com?
Absolutely.
Oh, well, there you go.
Streaming live.
Streaming live. That's
we are the station that reaches the beaches.
Who would have thunk it?
Anyway.
All right. Good luck, guys. By the way, I hope that weather does. I'm going to go deer hunting this afternoon. I just don't know what this weather's going to do. So, all right. I will see you next week. I will be here. You know where to go. Hasta la vista, baby.
From the L.B. Smith Ford Lincoln Studios, this is Country Gold FM, WIOO Carlisle, and WEEO Shippensburg.
From ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. Much of the country is in the grips of a massive cold front. The frigid weather has so far claimed at least 15 lives across the nation. ABC News weather editor Ginger Z says we are just getting started.
Corvallis, Oregon, and they had some big-time snow coming in, inches and inches in places that don't necessarily get it and don't necessarily get it this early. Much more snow is going to fall here through the next 24 hours or so. This low-pressure system slips through the west. The mountains picking up quite a bit. You could see some Sacramento and Redding flakes mixing in. And then the cold.
Meantime, some dangerous driving conditions and power outages. Services Memorials Morning and celebration of Nelson Mandela will continue until next Sunday's funeral in South Africa. ABC News' Byron Pitts reports from Johannesburg that the official celebration kicks off tomorrow.
The National Day of Prayer and Reflection for South Africa. With an official service on Tuesday in Johannesburg, where thousands are expected to gather at the FNB Stadium. The same stadium where Mandela made his last public appearance during the 2010 World Cup.
President Obama among the 3 U.S. presidents that will be attending services. On his way home, an American held in North Korea for over a month.
Released, 85-year-old U.S.-Korean war vet Merrill Newman is free. Transferring flights in Beijing, he says,
I'm very glad to be on my way home. And I appreciate the tolerance that DPRK government has given to me to be on my way.
And the first order of business,
I'll go home and see my wife.
Newman was detained in October on the last day of a 10-day tourist visit to North Korea. Tom Rivers, ABC News.
Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has landed in Afghanistan there to thank troops for their service, but there are no plans for him to meet with President Hamid Karzai, who will be leaving the country today for